Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for another discussion with a great Chelsea guest, a returning guest to the channel. It's been so long since I spoke to this guest, NiiNiiFC, a great guy. I'm sure most of you know who he is in the Chelsea online community. His YouTube channel continues to grow, continues to go from strength to strength. We haven't spoken since early January, and of course there has been a change in head coach since then. We speak about Thomas Tuchel's arrival, what he's done so far with the Chelsea side, of course some brilliant wins recently, the Champions League, the FA Cup, the Premier League. We go into all of that, tactics, players and more. Hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. If you do, give it a like and also subscribe and hit that notification bell. All the links to NiiNii's work is in the description box below, but let's get to the discussion right now. So NiiNii, thank you so much for joining me again, mate. We haven't collabed in what feels like a very long time, at least in the world of Chelsea. I think the last time we collabed was early January time, I think pre-Fulham, that game where Mason Mount scored the winner. Since then, there's been a change of head coach. A lot has happened. Chelsea have improved. As we record this video, the Champions League draw has just happened, and there is even some sort of belief that we could get to the final, which wasn't the case a few months ago. And, you know, there's the FA Cup there as well, the top four race. It's been crazy. How have you sort of delved through these last few months at Chelsea? Because they have been like, it feels a little bit like whiplash recently, hasn't it? You know, in terms of how quickly things have changed, how much we've had to adapt to the new coach and what's happened since then.
Yeah, I think perfectly said. We had no real time really to reflect about Lampard's time at the club just yet. Maybe now with the international break about to come, there could be time for reflection, but I think it's going to be more comparison based than actually like reflecting on each qualities. But yeah, you know, Tuchel has come in instantly, and I feel like for me, he's a manager that has grown and learned from his mistakes in the past. I think that's why he's come to this situation, and even his mentality, you know, him saying, accepting that, yes, 18-month deal, and, you know, I could fight for a longer deal. I could fight for more. I could fight for more belief in my work. But the reality is, this is just how things are. And let me make the best out of things as I possibly can. And, you know, when he was at Paris Saint-Germain, he had his own difficulties. He made his own mistakes. And I feel one of the reasons behind why he's been able to quickly just get us up and firing again. And in a sense, kind of, it might sound a bit harsh, but maybe slightly made Lampard's time a bit of a little memory at this point in time, is due to how he's been able to grow from the mistakes and implement them here. Number one, how he's utilising the squads. I think number two, finding a system that gets the best out of them. I think obviously is the short start possession game is Thomas Tuchel. And in a sense, we do kind of have a squad that can play that. I mean, that can utilise the entire squad to play that possession-based style of football. And these are some small examples behind how Tuchel's been able to really get things firing straight away.
I think, you know, we can get into sort of the tactics, the style of play, certain players he's utilised really well. One thing I would say is, personally for me, since his first press conference, I think he's dealt with the media side of things, the public side of things very well. I think the way he speaks as the Chelsea head coach, I think the way he's acted in a, you know, it's easy to, you know, dismiss now, but the way things were when that massive decision happened back in January, the fact he was able to come in so early and unite people and get people on board with him, you know, because there was a lot of sort of divide around that decision. How have you found it? Because that's been one of the most impressive things, the clarity within what he says, the way he delves into his decision making. I think all around his personality, he's an infectious personality and you want to listen to him speak about football. So how have you found that side of him rather than just what he's done on the pitch with Chelsea?
I do think that, you know, some of it for me is kind of like standard managerial talk in that sense. I feel like maybe he, you know, does he expand more than what Lampard was doing? I don't think so, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's quite difficult for me to answer that. I'd say that I'm more fascinated by the tactical side of Tuchel compared to how he addresses himself in the media. I think maybe, you know, because people need to support a new man that maybe they weren't supporting the previous manager, you know, you are going to stand for him even harder in that sense. And everything he does is going to be gold. So I'm not saying that, I'm not dismissing that. But what I'm stressing is that for me is more the tactical nature, how he's managing the squads, his actions that are really impressing me the most.
The tactical side of the game for me is really interesting. You know, he's reintegrated a three-back system that, of course, was used very much under Antonio Conte. We saw a little bit under Frank Lampard to varying levels of success. Sometimes it worked really well, sometimes it didn't. It basically has been the 3-4-2-1 that has at time looked like a 3-4-1-2 at times, with Mason as sort of that number 10, dropping a little bit deeper. The counter press, I think, has drastically improved. That's been a key component of the way we go about our business. But just something I think maybe you've touched on it as well, because obviously as a German coach, there'll always be that comparison now to Jurgen Klopp, given what he's done at Liverpool. I feel of a similarity reading up on Tuchel, much more like Pep Guardiola, the way he wants to play the game, the way he's very flexible, the way he alters his team game to game, depending on the opposition. What have been some of those tactical things that have really sort of intrigued you or even maybe surprised you about what he's done with the positional play he's integrated so far?
It's hard for me because I wasn't too surprised by some of the decisions. I'm thinking, okay, a new manager, he's come in halfway through a season. Immediately, there's a ton of pressure on him. Number one, he has to get the squads buying into his ideas. And to do that, you need to find a style of football that's going to unite them. Because the reality is at this level too, if you want a happy squad, you have to play players. It really is that simple. The minute that you're not playing guys and they're ostracizing out the team, expect there to be dissent that comes through. And, when you learn and know how Tuchel is as a manager, I'm constantly stressing this all the time. He's a guy that likes to exploit an opposition team's weakness as well as stifling their attack. And even though, him and Klopp are both, what's the word, not tutors. Yeah, I mean, they're both like disciples in that sense when it comes to that gang style pressing. Klopp is more about attacking on the transition, forcing his game with the opponents, quick attacks and pressing very high to, force some mistakes. However, with Tuchel, it's more about the control. It's more about, the discipline. It's more about the patience. It's more about the positional play. You know what I mean? And even though they both believe in the counter pressing, how they go about that is two different things. So, applying that principle to Tuchel having to come here, as I'm stressing, he had to get the entire squad behind his ideas. And when you actually when you actually examine our squads, I feel like maybe it's fair to say now that this squad was always meant for possession style football. And the reason why I say this is not because I feel that maybe Lampard's football wasn't going to work, because I think there's been so many examples of it working previously, but for him to really adopt his style permanently, we needed another season to go into the market to sign the right players. And, I guess maybe the club had different ideas. They still have players on the books on big wages, on big money, who can still provide something. And now there's a style that fully utilizes the whole squads. I feel this is the main reason why we've seen the form go up higher, why we're seeing every player buying into the system, and why we're seeing top quality professionalism that we haven't maybe seen consistently throughout the season. So, I do feel like maybe in hindsight, the board's decision to hastily sack Lampard was correct in this context, because, now we don't have to spend even more money signing 5 or 6 more players now. We can just sign a handful more to just continue the good work that Tuchel's done.
I do wonder if Tuchel is the right blend for Chelsea as a head coach of the more reactive Chelsea we saw with Conte and Mourinho, and blending that with a more progressive vision that we potentially saw growing with Sarri and Lampard. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe he's just within the culture of the club as well, and what the short-term expectation is of him as well. I just wonder if this is the right guy to sort of gel those two things together. Do you feel similarly about that?
Yeah, with Tuchel, I'd say that his best qualities kind of encapsulate the best qualities of all the managers we've had recently. I'm looking at Antonio Conte, Sarri, Lampard, and we're seeing, yes, he's adopting the back three setup from Antonio Conte. He's adopting some of the build-up phase. Not adopting, that's the wrong word to say, but we can see the similarities in the build-up phase that we saw under Antonio Conte, and some certain similarities in regards to the the intense work and pressing from the top that we saw under Frank Lampard. And for me, it feels like a guy that's fully mastered his craft. He learned lessons at Paris Saint-Germain, made mistakes there that he will never make again. And this is why he knew instantly that he could get the job and make things happen immediately. And Yeah, after seeing how the football is improving and improving, and you can see that there's still more levels to rise and rise and rise. It really is exciting times to be in. And I think if you're the boards, you're thinking, okay, maybe finally, after many, many years, we've got a manager now that is our ideal man. Tuchel has come at a stage now where board decisions won't necessarily piss him off as much as they would have back in the day. He's got a lot of players in the squad to work with now, a lot of sort of young, exciting guys, if you saw at Dortmund as well, too, that, you know, they have the added bonus of listening, following instructions. For example, I was hearing at Paris Saint-Germain, he made the mistake of allowing players to have too much freedom in that sense. For example, it was getting to a crazy point where training sessions were getting changed just to accommodate Neymar and his lifestyle. And he made mistakes in regards to not, you know, enforcing that the attacking players should press more. There's a reason why he used three DMs behind Di Maria, Neymar, and Mbappe. And when you use a team like that, there are going to be eventual bottlenecks. And I think here right now, he has a young attack that has the potential to be just as devastating in years to come, that are able to press from the front. And by doing that, it kind of takes the football tactics up to another level. So as I keep stressing, man, Tuchel's coming. I feel like he knows exactly what he's doing. He's utilizing the squads. I think over time, next season, I'll pay more attention to how he uses the young players in the team. But I think for now, he's doing everything he has to do. And I mean, we look like a team right now where, for the first time in many years, I'm not scared of anyone. I feel like we can take our games to anyone. I haven't seen any weaknesses yet. And long may that continue.
I find there's two things I think that have intrigued me about his work so far, and there were two probably areas that were problematic in our game, not only for Lampard but for Sarri as well. Firstly, that midfield, because I probably still hold the belief, despite some brilliant performances recently, especially when he walked in, that he didn't have the perfect solution in that midfield, especially for playing, say, 4-3-3, a more progressive system in truth, and maybe adding another person to that attack. I think the way he's utilised Jorginho has been very interesting to me. When you look at the positioning of Jorginho so far, he is not pressing up the pitch. He's sitting very deep. He's being asked to basically stay in position of where he sets up on the pitch on a regular basis. I find that a very interesting dynamic, because I think that's where the pragmatism comes in. Because I think we're fooling ourselves if we think this midfield it has an extraordinary talent in N'Golo Kante that was incredible. Both Jorginho and Kovra have played really well, but I think the system is allowing, especially Jorginho, to be protected a lot more than maybe he was previously.
Yeah, I think, with that, it does kind of complement how Tuchel is as a manager, because, the idea of having these guys in the pivot, just staying in their positions, is to try and force the opposition team's press, to funnel them into those areas, to funnel them into those central areas. And, it makes sense why we use wing backs alongside them, because when they're about to get pressed down, there's constantly an outlet out wide or behind them in defence where, we can evade the press and obviously play through that and create our own attacks. I feel that this is part of Tuchel's plan. And, it's not the first time we've seen this done. We were last season when we saw that pivot come from George and Kovra. Lampard did the same thing, playing these guys very close together, very tight as well. But, the difference is that, Lampard was still expecting more long ball play from them. However, under Tuchel, who likes his teams to keep the ball on the grounds, of course, this is going to suit these guys even more. So, for me, again, another example of a manager that understands what he has, knows how to maximize it, and how to, complement his ideas and take them to the next level.
One player I think in particular who I think has come out the best so far for Tuchel, and there has been quite a few you could pick out, like Jorginho, like Kovacic, like Antonio Rudiger, who's been wonderful in recent games. The biggest surprise to me is, undeniably, is Andreas Christensen, what he's done for Chelsea in recent months. If we'd have the discussion maybe the last time we spoke in January, if I said to you by March, Christensen's going to be a starter against Liverpool when he's going to have a wonderful game. And he's going to be almost a guaranteed starter that we're upset he's missing for any games. I mean, that would have been an astonishing statement. I mean, what do you think about Christensen? Because he has not only benefited from more minutes, more opportunities, but I think he's having the best run of his Chelsea career. There are elements physicality-wise to his game that I think were lacking previously, but he seems to have them now. He seems to be flowing with confidence, and that's a positive for Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see Christensen stepping up the right words. Yeah, I guess having the opportunity to show what he's really about. For me, I do feel like his confidence was starting to get affected under Maurizio Sarri. I guess, Sarri wanted a more aggressive style defender, which isn't necessarily Christensen's game. And we then saw this period of where it felt like Christensen was in like a little bit of an influx, in the sense where it's like, okay, do I stick to my principles as a player? Or do I try to adapt what I do to meet the demands of the manager so I can obviously get into the first team? And I think during this confusing periods, of course, this is where we notice more mistakes in this game that isn't really typical of Christensen, I have to say, because, one of the strongest elements of his game has always been his ability to read the game. That's always been one of the best things about him. And at the start of the season, before he got sent off against Liverpool, he was actually starting games until, I guess, it was another manager that lost faith. And I think that's one thing that this season has taught me. Sometimes we look at players and we just kind of see them as like, stats on a piece of paper. These are human beings. And if you give anyone confidence in that belief, you're going to see them at their very best. And I think, Christensen with confidence, on top of the fact that he's playing in a system that really maximizes how he likes to play, maximizes his strengths. We now notice some of the things that weren't really present beforehand, like his ability to read the danger. He's always in the right areas at the right time. His great run tackling, and his ability to actually carry the ball and drive into midfield. He's not the defender that's gonna, play those playmaker style passes from the deep and find someone from 70 yards. He's a defender that's gonna increase the tempo, drive the ball into midfield, and look to play attacks like that. So, happy for him. You guys know I love my academy grads, and happy that another academy guy is got a mainstay in the team. And someone like Christensen, who's had a massive reputation for a very long time, has always remained a very good player in my opinion. And now, we're now seeing him in a more fair light that represents who he is as a player.
This has been the ultimate season. These last few months have sort of taught me that when I'm doing videos, when I'm being asked questions about players and their future, I'm not ruling any player out anymore, because it's a fool's game. I'm being proved it game by game at the moment. Ziyech was another player recently where I was getting asked questions on Monday about his future. Does he fit into Tuchel's system? And I was saying, I think he looks a little bit lost. And then 2 days later, he's scoring in the Champions League for us and he looks good. So I think absolutely that's a lesson we should learn. And with this big squad, with a coach who likes to have big squads and likes to rotate, it's probably the best case scenario as well politically behind the scenes, because we know the friction in the previous regime was Lampard wanted certain players gone. The current club didn't. The hierarchy at the club didn't want those players gone, and probably that's going to help Tuchel. I don't want to sort of sound like I'm trying to be negative here. I just because we're not only speaking about Atletico, we're speaking about a longer period here. What have been sort of maybe not negatives, because we haven't lost a game yet, but anything that has maybe concerned you or frustrated you? I suppose based on conversations we've had and watching your content over recent months, it's going to sway towards attack, because that does feel like the one area that has been a little bit awkward.
Yeah, for sure. It has been attack. And, I've always said this too, consistently, that I do feel like Tuchel, with more time, understanding the players and working with these guys, is going to find the tweaks at the top to make it work. And for me, it felt like I saw that versus Atletico Madrid, and it was how Ziyech was used that really saw that to me, because we finally used him to his best strengths. I've seen games where he's played part of this front three where I'm seeing him making runs in behind, having to get inside the box, having to play off Timo Werner. I'm just thinking, this is not Ziyech at all. He does not play like this. We're wasting the player in that sense. And it's no surprise why he's going to look lost and not play to his best. And, I feel like it's fair for me to say this, because there's a reason why, and Tuchel himself has stated, he's used many different attacking lineups since his run at the club. But versus Atleti, we saw, for me, maybe the best way to use our attack. Ziyech was constantly receiving in the right side channel, playing with the wing back and Reece James, finally seeing that link up that we were seeing during the middle part of the season, which then went for a while. And then we weren't actually seeing on a Tuchel because, Z wasn't in those areas. We saw that in that game versus Atleti. We saw him being able to link up with Havertz, either, swapping positions or playing close to each other to free up the space for Timo Werner. And we were seeing him able to put in his customary crosses, collecting the balls to dribble past opponents on the right-hand side too. That's how you use him as part of this front three. And, of course, when you have great players like him and Kai, and of course Mason too, I feel like Z would be able to play the same way, with Mason Mount as well. Giving him that attacking license and freedom, that's how you get the best out of him in the system. But if you're going to rely upon him to make runs in behind and to play off of a central striker, then it's a waste of time. So, I knew that this could be fixed and solved. I'm happy to see that happen in probably the biggest game of the season versus Atleti. And as we saw, the attack was at its fluid best, at its magnificent best. And I feel like now that we've, got players who are fully fit, who are, back on form, who have their confidence there. Because I do feel at the same time too that Tuchel knew that maybe the attack he wanted to use wasn't going to work immediately just like that. There had to be more time to, get everyone back to the right levels of form. Once that had happened, then we'd really see what's going to happen. So right now, considering that once we play against Sheffield United, our next run of games after international break are going to be against bottom 10, bottom half clubs. That is the perfect time to really continue the experiment with the attack and to really just give more consistent game time to these guys. And I think once we get past this period, I feel we're going to see an even more complete team under Tuchel.
It does feel like there have been sort of constant sort of progress in certain elements. I think the counter press has been the biggest thing that you could look at against Wolves and then look at against Atletico and see the major improvement. I think the way the team, in particular the other night, was playing in between the lines, trying to play a lot more direct. I mean, I think it did help Timo Werner. We had this discussion on your channel last night. If you guys want to watch that, I'll leave a link in the description box below. On your channel, we've spoken about the Atletico game and the counter-attacking style of it. Unfortunately, in the Premier League, we can't do that a lot of the time because when you're coming up against Sheffield United, when you're coming up against West Brom, even Leeds were sitting quite deep against us, which is not really their style as the game progressed and we had a lot of possession. Chelsea do struggle to get the best out of Timo, but I thought that was an encouraging night to see that we could find Timo in the areas and sort of the ways of counter-attacking that are going to help him and to excel. I just want to ask you about, and I guess this leads into what you were just speaking about with the attacking talent we have and trying to make it gel a little bit more, transfers, this summer, because with the new coach coming in, with the club targets, at the moment, and I know you're speaking about similar things, it seems Haaland is the massive one currently. The general question I just want to ask, because I've made videos constantly, is, do we need to spend a lot of money on this squad this summer? Or is it a case of just certain positions, one, maybe two positions that need some filling or, just needs a bit more intelligent recruitment rather than going out there and splashing hundreds of millions on new players again?
I'd have to say that I kind of cater towards your answer. For me, if you sign a Haaland, it feels like that's more work for Tuchel, where he now has to then tweak the attack even more to then find new balance. And, I'm always saying, you look at Liverpool and how they progress over the past 4 or 5 seasons, they had a platform to build off every season, which they took forward into the next season, which allowed them to actually achieve the targets they did. And, I feel like now, we've seen, small periods where, now it seems like we have this platform set and ready, but then injuries come or, nonsense happens and then you go back to square one again. But right now, it seems like now, we are building the platform. So for me, considering how Haaland plays, this is a guy that you have to find constantly. This is a guy that is the focal point. And then if that's the case, then, how do other attacking players work? unless the plan's going to be that there'll be constant rotation defensively. But, I think that can happen when you have the main foundations of the attack set already before you can start tweaking it and, adding variety to it. So I don't know. As Chelsea fans, we've seen all the time that when Roman wants a player, he will get them at any cost, and then he'll feel that it's up to the manager to make it happen and work. So it'll be interesting to see. Honestly, I don't necessarily know how it could go. I guess Haaland's exciting player, of course, one of the best strikers, I guess you could say right now. A part of me does feel okay when I watch him play. Some of the goals he's scoring, these are the type of goals that our strikers normally get. So how will that translate if he was to sign for a club like us? And considering that Dortmund will funnel everything towards him as well, and some of the space, how many tap-ins has he scored? And I'm not saying that in a discrediting point of view, because it's about the amazing timing and sense to know when to get on the end of these moves, which is world class in itself. But I feel like maybe we're a league, maybe we're a team where those opportunities don't come too often. I don't know. It's weird because throughout this season we've signed how many attacking players this summer, and I think only right now we're finally seeing a bit of consistency. And this is me only saying this after one game versus Atletico Madrid. Who knows what's going to happen once we get over the international period? So, I still have a lot of questions in my head. I'm not fully confident on what the answer is. My hunch, my gut feeling is telling me, okay, let's actually sign players that we can continue the work we're doing right now, like a midfield player, targeting him. Maybe an attacking player, I'm not too sure. That's if attacking players were to leave, but to sign a proper focal point striker like Haaland, it could work, but then does he do better with wingers in the team or with attacking mids? Yeah, man, I feel like we could be here all day just discussing the ins and outs, but I don't know. My gut's telling me maybe it's a bit extravagant. I've seen it before with Shevchenko and Torres. Do we need to see it again? I don't know.
I don't know what it says as well about your recruitment sort of strategy and policy that you splash about, 150 million, close to 150 million on Ziyech, Werner and Havertz, the front three the other night. And then the next summer, based on reports recently, you're going to spend the same amount on one player. I don't know what it says about your policy to integrate players. We think about all those attackers. A difficult first year at Chelsea. They've all had struggles, whether that's injury, COVID for Kai, Ziyech, not only injury and a lack of fitness from playing football, but, adapting to life in a lockdown, in a country that was in lockdown basically for most of the season. So it's tough. And in the past, we've given up on young players who've gone on to big things, and you hope that won't happen now with the current crop of players. So I'd be fascinated to see what happens when we give players time and we don't go out there and spend loads when we don't actually need to. So I agree with you on that. I think that maybe just a little bit of patience is required, maybe at Chelsea, if that's even possible.
Yeah, because I think the reality is too, we're looking at the attacking metrics this season, and I think it's safe to assume that as the seasons go on, the numbers for more of the attacking guys is only going to grow and increase. Kai he's a guy that will get double digits in goals and assists. He hasn't shown that this season due to the difficulties, but that is the guy he is. Werner gets you over 20 goals a season. He'll eventually do that. Another guy that gets you double digits for goals and assists. And then we've got guys like Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Mason Mount, who are only going to get better at putting the ball in the back of the net. So it's not like goals will never come. I don't know. I feel like for me, strikers always complement the team. You know what I mean? So they're not necessarily some of the most important positions to sign in that sense. I think we've seen teams where, as long as the style suits the forward at the time, they are going to be able to put balls in the back of the net. So I don't know. A part of me feels like this is Roman feeling okay. I can't see this guy sign for anyone else. I'm completely in love with him. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a billionaire and I can kind of do what I want due to the money and the influence. But it does make coaches' jobs a bit difficult in that sense. And I like to see how it could work ideally.
So last two questions. One is on next season, and then the last one's going to be actually on this season and the conclusion to this season. Because next season, when we were speaking about Tuchel, what he said in public, how clear he's been about what's expected of him, it's pretty evident Chelsea need to seriously challenge for a Premier League title next season, right? That seems to be the expectation. We see what Man City are currently doing under Pep Guardiola, and that's not even bringing into Man United, Liverpool getting back to their best next season, potentially under Klopp. It's going to be different next season for a variety of reasons, because fans will be back in the stadium, hopefully, by August. But just the pressure, because it's not a free hit for Tuchel currently, but it is like an extended pre-season for him currently. What do you make of his challenge next season to take this club and make them seriously compete for a Premier League title over 38 games for the first time in, 3 or 4 years? Because we haven't really been there for a while.
But for me, it will simply come down to scoring goals. I think that's what you need to do. We've shown that we can stifle teams. We can, defend compactly. Players, they suit the intensity of the system, and they follow what the manager wants. But scoring goals is the key thing. Maybe my opinion is going to change as the season does develop. Let's say we start to find it easier to get goals. I feel like, every time I've seen like a title winning team, they always create that set style of goal all the time. It's not like when you create goals, you're creating like 10 different moves all the time to put the ball in the back of the net. I haven't seen us create consistently from just like the open play chances. Until I see that, which I'm hoping can develop now after what I saw versus Atletico Madrid, then it's hard for me to say straight that okay, but ready to win the title, because the reality with the style of football we're playing is that we are going to be a team that will consistently have over 65%, 60% possession, and playing against teams that play without the ball is very, very hard today because due to fitness reasons and so many great managers in the league, teams, players, they can hold out for longer. So the game becomes a bit different. And then it comes down to the individual player, in my opinion, about, okay, you have a bit of space. Are you going to take responsibility in that moment? So let's say, I don't know, take a shot from 20 yards to the top right corner, make the most of this half chance to put the ball in the back of the net. Are we a team that's going to be able to get the first goal and really, really control things? I feel like if those questions are answered come the end of the season, then I'll know that we're ready for a title challenge. But to think that just signing a striker and, that guarantees that we'll be able to put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, as you said before, man, we've spent so much money, hundreds of millions on attacking talent that hasn't even shown its full potential just now. You can't just throw money at these things and assume that you'll expect guaranteed results,
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge next season. And I think that it's going to be an interesting sort of season, I think, for a variety of reasons, and seeing how hopefully the investment we have made on players starts to come to fruition a lot more. Seeing maybe a pre-season really helping this squad and helping Tuchel a lot more, potentially moving to a 4-back system again if Tuchel needs to. I think there's so much up in the air. The final thing I want to speak about is just the conclusion to this season, because it seems to be going so well at the moment. We've just had that amazing result against and performance against Atletico Madrid into the quarterfinals. The draw's gone in Tuchel's favour. I mean, something's in the water currently for Tuchel, because it's going all his own way in terms of getting Porto in the quarterfinals. If we get through to the semi-finals, Real or Liverpool, missing out Bayern, City, PSG and Dortmund to at least the final. If we get there, there's now hope that potentially Chelsea could do something quite remarkable this year. The FA Cup, top four's in our hands. I mean, if we don't get top four from this point on, I think it'd be very, very disappointing. So what do you think about just for the rest of the season? Because it could turn into a very ridiculous season if Chelsea, I'm thinking about the Champions League mainly, it could turn into a season none of us anticipated in our wildest dreams. But then even if we don't win the Champions League or get to the final, the FA Cup and top four would, I think, be considered a really good position to end the season, given where we were in January.
Yeah. I said in my video today that I've had this weird, I've been envisioning this weird scenario that we'd play against Bayern again, repeat of the 2012 final. I was thinking, I like to go off like my hunch feelings, my intuition. And throughout this season, I've been feeling, okay, what is like the main thing that makes me feel like we can't win the Champions League? it might sound like I'm speaking in the moment because why am I only saying this now? But yeah, I like to go off my intuition, and I feel like a lot of times, I do get things like right. I don't know. Of course, against Porto, they'll bring their own challenges, but with how we play and the confidence now, I think that we have solutions to be able to beat a team like this. And then for me, when I look at the rivals in Europe, I just don't think that many of them are on the same level they used to be. I mean, looking at Liverpool, their difficulties this season, no defence. I mean, we played against them and we look very accomplished. Real Madrid are the same team. We've really dominated Spanish teams this season in Sevilla and Atleti, and I think Madrid's, we could really exploit them in midfields with our energy, and I feel like we could exploit them in defence as well. Maybe Bayern Munich, they're a team that you always have to have respect for, but are they as good as they were last season? I'd say their level isn't exactly the same. I don't know. I do feel like, again, it's very boring, very cliche, but taking it game by game. I think that's what's been instilled in the team so far. It's definitely working. I think the fact that we have a whole squad now that is ready, bar like the youth players aren't really playing like Gilmore, etc., etc. But context is, I can see why he isn't. It does feel like if we maintain what we're doing, if we have a ridiculous month next month where we beat every team in the bottom half of the table, and we're able to score at least more than 2 goals a game, I'm going to feel ready for the end game part of the season, essentially. And we have like the final games of the season for us, like Arsenal, City, Leicester, of course, Sheffield United tomorrow. If we beat them, get to the semis, that's only going to boost the confidence even more. And then, then you play the big boys again to potentially get into the finals. So the season can still collapse in that sense, but even if it did, there are positives we can take from this season to next season for sure. And there's definitely momentum that can be built from and continued. But yeah, I don't want to jinx anything. All I'm saying is that I'm ready for whatever. I feel optimistic, and I feel like from what we're seeing with the team, things can happen this season.
I think just from a base level, the thing you said about taking one game at a time, it's a cliche that managers and players use, and we do get tired of it. But for the predictably unpredictable club that Chelsea are, I think this season has proved once again how chaotic this club is, and how sometimes it seems to thrive in chaos. It seems to, even in the worst moments, it seems to obviously recover. And you look at our history, it's always been this way. And I think, just don't think about the long term. Don't think about the next 2 or 3 years. Think about the next game. And as you say, it could go in a variety of ways. I mean, I think the best thing for me is that fans I think the FA Cup final could be back. One of the last Premier League games could be back as well. And you think about how wonderful that could be an ending to the season to have some fans, especially in the FA Cup final. And I mean, if we were to do something remarkable in the Champions League once again, I mean, it completely changes, I think, a lot of people's perspective on this club, really, of where it's going. Because if you win a Champions League, it instantly goes up there in terms of seasons, and in terms of that team, the players within that team are immortalised basically for winning the Champions League. So it could be crazy, it could be mediocre, it could be something in between, which I'd personally take. But interesting discussion as always, Nini. Thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Thanks,
as I do with all my guests, as you've done before, please shout out where people can find your work. I know obviously getting that content out there now, obviously feeling a lot better after your health scare recently, which is great to see you getting your videos out there again. So please shout out your work, because it's people got to go and watch it. I'm sure most do, but you've got to go and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And if you guys want to find me, of course, that's Blue Lions TV on YouTube. And if you want to find me on Twitter, that's at NiiNiiFC. I'm not tweeting as much. I'll get back to doing that. I don't even want to talk about Twitter right now, to be honest. But you guys find me on YouTube, Blue Lions TV.
No worries, absolutely. All the links, as ever, will be in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.